Part 7. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 61. At the beginning of the fourth game, all three of them took it seriously. However, it is obvious that some have more energy to spare. Talking and laughing on the bright side, but in the dark, there is a turbulent undercurrent. Wen Qiao maintained the rule of winning 3 rounds and losing 1 round, and it was obvious that she deliberately let go of the losing round, as if she didn't want to embarrass her brothers too much. She obviously controlled the rhythm of the game, but she didn't concentrate on counting the cards, she was still observing the micro-expressions and some actions of the 4 people. With ease, he killed a few brothers without leaving any. The way the 3 of them looked at Wen Qiao was obviously different from the beginning. This girl's math talent was not even worse than the young master's. These 2 are really terrible. After playing more than a dozen rounds, the 3 of them kept losing. They had big chips. Fu Nanli bowed his head and told Wen Qiao, "You won 200,000 in one night." Wen Qiao. Rich people make a lot of money. She didn't come here to play cards, she reached out and rubbed her shoulders. Fu Nanli said lightly, "She's tired, she won't play anymore." Okay. Money or not is a trivial matter, but being crushed by a girl in all directions and losing face is a major matter. Wen Qiao left Fu Nanli behind, walked to the bar, ordered a few glasses of wine, and warmly brought them to the table for those brothers who had lost money to her. Fu Nanli squinted slightly to look at Wen Qiao, stroking the chips in his hand with his slender fingers. Wen Qiao picked up the wine glasses from the silver tray and handed them to his brothers one by one. The last one was Fu Chuan. This person was Wen Qiao's main suspect. That day in the hospital corridor, although I heard him talking, the noise was so loud that it was really hard to tell which one of them it was. Fu Chuan talked less and looked more gloomy. When Wen Qiao handed him the wine, he deliberately tilted his hand, and the whole glass of wine spilled on Fu Chuan's arm. Sorry. While apologizing, Wen Qiao reached out to help him roll up his sleeves. Fu Chuan, it's okay, I'll just wipe it off. Fu Nanli's face was livid, he grabbed Wen Qiao's wrist, and pulled him into his arms. Wen Qiao's eyes were still fixed on Fu Chuan, and she even reached out to help Fu Chuan roll up his sleeves, so enthusiastic that the Fu brothers were flustered. Fu Cheng took the tissue and went over, "Brother, wipe it off." Fu Chuan took the tissue and wiped his shirt sleeves, but he didn't roll up his sleeves as Wen Qiao hoped. Wen Qiao frowned, not noticing that the face of the man beside him had sunk to the bottom. "Fu Huayuan, is Xiaoan as good at mathematics as our young master? Did you go to university?" "Which university?" Wen Qiao smiled, "In the School of Music, mathematics is just a hobby. With her cultural achievements, it is possible to go to the top universities in China, but she loves music and wants to justify the name of folk music that Sulu and Zhao Tong don't like, so she must go to Yanjian." Fu Huaiming pulled his brother. The young master's expression was obviously not very good, he seemed to mind that they took up too much of the little girl's time. "Let's go to the boxing gym to have fun." Wen Qiao got up and wanted to follow, but she was a little unwilling to find out who had the tattoo. Being grabbed by the man, his voice came from the ear, "You are not allowed to go anywhere, just stay here." Several of his cousins had already fled in haste. Wen Qiao turned around and met a pair of gloomy eyes, her heart trembled. Why was he unhappy? "What's wrong with you?" In front of Fu Nanli, Wen Qiao has always been soft, putting away all sharp claws. "Nothing." His tone was calm, his slender fingers were carelessly playing with the chips in his hands, and it was clearly written in his eyes, "Master is upset, but you need to take the initiative to find out." With such a bold personality, Wen Qiao couldn't even sense that the man in front of him was jealous. "That's good," she said. Fu Nanli's face darkened even more. Wen Qiao was a little helpless, Why is he always so angry? Don't mess with him. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 62. Aren't you happy? Wen Qiao's nerves are sometimes straighter than the straight man of steel. He wrapped his arms around her, and gently rubbed the skin around her lips with his calloused thumb. Can't you see it? An unprecedented possessive desire invaded his mind, hoping that she would only look at him. This desire to control was even a little pathological and uncontrollable. Wen Qiao felt that the atmosphere between the two became inexplicably ambiguous, and wanted to get up. Want to drink? I'll get you a drink. Tequila. Whiskey. Or. The wrist was clamped. Don't drink, I have to fly tomorrow, and I can't drink within 12 hours. Wen Qiao could only sit obediently on the sofa. Oh. Fu Nanli pressed his eyebrows together. After the flight this time, I'm going to Europe to attend a meeting for 10 days. Including the delay on the way back and forth, I will be away from China for about half a month. The corners of Wen Qiao's mouth rose, and the joy in his eyes could not be suppressed. Really? You don't have to lie for half a month. How nice. Fu Nanli's tall body bullied her, squinting slightly to look at her, and exerting a little force with his fingers. Her skin was tender, and there were reddish finger marks on her chin. Very happy. Wen Qiao immediately took his hand, switching between reluctance in a second. I will miss you, you must come back right away after the meeting. His tone softened, like a nagging kitten. Fu Nanli felt that there was nothing he could do about her. I'm going to the bathroom. Wen Qiao still wanted to find out if there was a man with a hospital tattoo among those brothers. Fu Nanli was kind to her, and she wanted to at least do something for him to offset the guilt she felt for lying. As soon as Fu Nanli raised his hand, the waiter came over with a small golden tray in one hand, and there was a black bracelet on it. Fu Nanli picked it up and put it on her hand. This is the pass for the Xiaotangshan Club. If I fly overseas, if you are bored, you can come and play by yourself, and you can travel freely with this bracelet. Wen Qiao touched it, and it seemed to be high-tech, and it could be used to swipe cards. I'm going to the jiu-jitsu gym, come find me later, don't run around. His smooth muscular lines are indeed the result of practicing Brazilian jiu-jitsu. After Fu Nanli's figure disappeared into the dark red corridor, Wen Qiao grabbed a waiter and asked where the boxing gym was, and the waiter enthusiastically told her how to get there. But the Xiaotangshan Club was too big. Wen Qiao walked along the corridor, went down to the atrium, and walked around a few times. Then, gorgeously lost. It was too much like a maze here. She stood there and calmed down for a while, and began to model in her mind which places she had been to and which places she hadn't. Soon the huge and complicated map of Xiaotangshan had a concrete image in her mind. A Porsche was parked outside the club. Zhao Tong pulled the sullen Sulu to play, and shook the card in his hand. My brother has a good relationship with Fu Cheng, the young master of Ming Cheng Pharmaceutical, and he got me such a VIP card, but it's a one-off, only come play once, but don't worry, my brother will get me a wristband pass for Xiaotangshan, and then I can come and go freely. Sulu's face is still not good looking. Sulu pulled her in and said, Wen Qiao really doesn't deserve you to be so sullen all the time. When we are having fun with high-class young masters and young ladies in such high-end places, she can only be with her poor stock, and her crazy brother crowding together to watch TV is not of the same magnitude at all, so let's not lower ourselves. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 63. Wen Qiao took another look at the map next to the elevator on the second floor. The boxing gym is on the fourth floor. It is divided into building A, B, C, and you need to go through the atrium of building A. When the elevator door opened and their eyes met, Zhao Tong shouted out first, Wen Qiao. Sulu's heart skipped a beat. How could Wen Qiao be here? What unfashionable method did she use to get into the upper class? Wen Qiao glanced at the two people in the elevator indifferently, ignored them, and walked directly to the atrium. Zhao Tong couldn't believe it. She seems to be wearing Xiaotangshan's bracelet on her hand. Sulu followed Wen Qiao and saw a delicate black bracelet on her right wrist. It was what Zhao Tong said was a symbol of status, a pass to the Xiaotangshan club. Her heart felt like it had been stabbed by some sharp knife. At that moment, Sulu couldn't breathe. An overwhelming wave of emotions came over her, and she knew very clearly that all the emotions coming together were called jealousy. I wonder who I hooked up with again? How did Wen Qiao become so depraved? She tore off her usual gentle and virtuous disguise and said this angrily. Zhao Tong echoed, that's right, it's definitely not the 18th line last time, eh? No, the 18th line can't really be named Fu. Even if it's not Fu Nanli, it could be one of those young masters from the Fu family's collateral line. Sulu chuckled, those young masters from the sidelines should also look down on her. They are all from famous families, and every family pays attention to being well matched. Zhao Tong curled his lips, let's follow him and have a look. The atrium was a nightclub, with a lively atmosphere, bright lights and music that penetrated her eardrums. Wen Qiao wanted to pass through and walk to the dance floor. A drunken man at the bar grabbed her wrist. Zhao Tong was very excited and took out his mobile phone to take some photos. That Fu Zhang is the closest descendant of the Fu family. He is also the most dandy and least learned playboy in the Fu family. It turns out that this is the one Wen Qiao fell in love with. His taste is quite strong. Wen Qiao was stunned for a moment when he saw his wrist being grasped by a man. He looked at the drunken man and frowned slightly, let go. She didn't want to be violent in Fu Nanli's club. Fu Zhang came closer and said, where does this beauty come from? Whose bed do you want to crawl into tonight? Drink with your brother. Whatever wishes you have, my brother can satisfy you. From time to time in Xiaotangshan, female celebrities would sneak in and sneak into a certain young master's private room, and maybe they could get a top resource. Oh, now there are also male celebrities who have this idea. After all, most of the resources in the entertainment industry are in the hands of a few big guys. Say, do you want to act in movies or TV, or do you want to go to Fashion Week? My brother can satisfy you. The man's expression was extremely vulgar, and Wen Qiao's fist was already ready to move. What's your name? The veins on Wen Qiao's forehead were pulsing. He had to give Fu Nanli face, so he couldn't mess with him, so he had to endure it. Fu Zhang was obsessed with Wen Qiao's beauty and sneered, my brother's name is Fu Zhang, you should know, right? Wen Qiao had a headache. My surname is Fu. Should I fight or not? Fu Zhang came over, smelling of alcohol and wanted to kiss her. Before Wen Qiao had time to think, he took a step back, broke free of his hand, raised his leg, and kicked Fu Zhang in the heart. Done in one go, neatly. Fu Zhang was caught off guard and kicked to the bar by her, hitting the entire wine cabinet. The famous wine on the wine cabinet crashed to the ground, smashing it all over. Fu Zhang was mostly sober from the alcohol. With the help of his bodyguards, he got up in embarrassment and looked at Wen Qiao with gritted teeth, bitch, you don't know how to show appreciation. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 64. Zhao Tong made a crazy video. Oh, it turns out that Wen Qiao is not Fu Zhang. We have seen a good show. This young Fu is very angry. No one here except Fu Nanli can cure him. Wen Qiao is in bad luck here. Sulu was a bit gloating about her misfortune. Wen Qiao didn't want to get involved with him at all. She still wanted to go to Fu Chuan to verify her identity. But when Fu Zhang raised his hand, two tall bodyguards raised their fists towards Wen Qiao. A tall figure suddenly jumped out from the crowd, grabbed the fist that was about to hit Wen Qiao, and twisted it hard, causing the bodyguard to scream. When Wen Qiao took a look, wasn't this her main suspect, Fu Chuan? Why is he here? And he still has kung fu? As soon as she was in trouble, he rushed over. Why so fast? Could it be that he has been staring at her? There is definitely something fishy about this Fu Chuan. Zhao Tong on the side was happy. Is it Fu Chuan that Wen Qiao hooked up with? The relationship between Fu Chuan and Fu Nanli is so far away that they can't even be considered relatives, they can only be considered family members. Well, Wen Qiao tried his best to hook up with Fu Chuan. It's reasonable for this young master to be marginalized. It's a pity that no one takes Fu Chuan seriously, and Wen Qiao can't expect chickens and dogs to ascend to heaven. Fu Zhang gritted his teeth and glared at Fu Chuan. I advise you to stop meddling in other people's business and get out of here. Fu Chuan said coldly, the young master is also here today. I advise you not to make a big fuss and make him unhappy. When the young master comes, he will only go to the jiu-jitsu gym. It's far away and there's no way to disturb him. If you have some sense, just get out of my way and don't ruin my young master's interest. Wen Qiao pressed his fingers and his joints made a cracking sound. Brother Chuan, get out of the way and I'll deal with him. Two more bodyguards rushed up to deal with Fu Chuan. Fu Chuan was entangled by them and couldn't care about Wen Qiao for a moment. He saw Fu Zhang gritting his teeth and rushing to Wen Qiao's side. His raised fist was suddenly grabbed from behind. Fu Zhang was furious. Which life-threatening bitch dares to stop me? The DJ quickly turned off the music, the surroundings were completely silent, and everyone looked at him in panic. They didn't know the man holding Fu Jiang's wrist very well, but standing next to him were Fu Cheng and Fu Huayuan. The two men treated him respectfully, which showed that he was more noble than Fu Chengdu. Who it is ready to be revealed. Fu Cheng's joking voice came, Fu Zhang, look back and see who it is. Fu Nanli pressed his shoulders and threw him against the other half of the wine cabinet. Nearly 100 bottles of Louis XIII wine fell to the ground. When Fu Zhang raised his head, the smell of alcohol and cowardice made him so frightened that his legs became weak and he couldn't get up. The bartender quickly helped him up, and he walked respectfully to Fu Nanli. His previous arrogance was gone, and he muttered, Brother, why are you here? Fu Jiang's grandfather is Fu Huiyang's biological brother. Among the cousins surnamed Fu present, Fu Zhang and Fu Nanli are the closest. This is also his capital that has always been rampant. He never looked down on his brothers except Fu Nanli. Because their backs were always turned to Zhao Tong and Su Lu, they could not see the tall man's front. Zhao Tong muttered, who is Wen Qiao climbing up to? Why do so many people stand up for her? Su Lu disdainfully said, no matter who he is, Wen Qiao will only cling to others. Zhao Tong echoed, that's right, it's probably either Fu Huaiming or one of Fu Huiyuan's two brothers. He's not a great person either. His status is similar to that of our Zhao family and Wen family. He's just taking advantage of someone with the Fu surname. Fu Nanli turned to look at Wen Qiao. She had a lot of drink splashed on her face. He took out the silk handkerchief from the front pocket of his suit and wiped her face. What did he do to you? Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 65. The intimate gesture made Fu Zhang confused. Could it be that he kicked the steel plate? I haven't heard of the young master falling in love. I haven't heard that the young master has the habit of raising little stars. The young master's private life is as clean as a blank slate. I haven't heard that he raises a little love child in Xiaotangshan. When Qiao pointed at Fu Zhang, he held my hand, asked me to drink with him, and even kissed me. Fu Zhang saw that his cousin's face was horribly gloomy, and his legs immediately trembled to the point where he could no longer stand. Young master, I. He was so frightened that he even changed his title and no longer dared to call him brother. Fu Nanli slowly wiped Wen Qiao's face, wiped the dark red wine from her neck, and then threw away the handkerchief in his hand without looking back. His voice was filled with a sinister tone that made people go numb. Let me see you here again. Master, I was wrong. I was blind. I will never come to Xiaotangshan again. I was wrong. I shouldn't have touched your people. I'm sorry. A standard 90-degree bow, just short of kneeling down. See her again in the future. Fu Nanli's voice was cold. I will definitely go around, young master. I can't see Taishan. I was wrong. Fu Cheng took advantage of the situation and said, these two wine cabinets, with nearly 100 bottles of Louis XIII, were all broken. Fu Zhang, what are you going to do? Fu Zhang has long been disliked, and Fu Cheng has to add insult to injury no matter what. Master, I will pay for everything. Fu Nanli lowered his eyes and looked at Wen Qiao. Just open her account. Yes, master, I will send someone to fight you right away. Fu Jiang's fear seemed strange to Zhao Tong. It doesn't make sense. Fu Zhang has always been rampant and doesn't take those people seriously. Could it be? Su Lu's heart was in her throat and she denied it. There's no way it's Fu Nanli. Even if Wen Qiao was extremely talented, she would never be able to match Fu Nanli. Fu Nanli put his arm around Wen Qiao's shoulders and left the chaotic nightclub surrounded by everyone. Several ladies who passed in front of Zhao Tong and Su Lu whispered, Fu Zhang is like a paper tiger. He doesn't even dare to fart in front of Fu Nanli. What a relief. Su Lu's face suddenly turned horribly white, her hands tightly grasped the edge of the table, her knuckles turned white, and her heartbeat was racing. No wonder Wen Qiao looks down on Zhuang Yan. It turned out that I had climbed to a higher branch. What method did Wen Qiao use to get in touch with Fu Nanli? She could actually get this most mysterious young master from a wealthy family to stand up for her. She couldn't understand. Fu Nanli must be playing tricks on her. Zhao Tong was indignant. When Su Lu heard this, she felt relieved. What does she have to worry about? Wen Qiao has two troublesome younger brothers. The kind of genetic mental illness inherent in the genes is looked down upon by the banker, and even less so by the Fu family. Fu Nanli just wanted to see her young, beautiful, and pure for fun. A young master from a family like Fu Nanli would definitely marry a well-matched daughter. But she was the only one who could feel the turmoil inside her most personally. Even if it is just for fun, it is enough to make all the famous ladies in Haikan envious. In the corridor, Fu Nanli took off his suit and covered Wen Qiao. I asked you to go to the jujitsu gym to find me. Why are you here? Wen Qiao looked at him carefully. I'm lost. The jujitsu gym is in the opposite direction from here. Wen Qiao looked innocent. Yes, that's why I'm lost. Those brothers seemed to have a good relationship with him. There was no definite evidence, and she didn't want to say bad things about people behind their backs. It sounded too much like a source of trouble to alienate other people's brotherhood. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 66. Fu Nanli gave her a meaningful look. If I'm not around from now on, you'd better not come. Today Fu Zhang covets her, and tomorrow there might be Li Zhang and Zhang Zhang coveting her beauty. She is too beautiful to worry about. Wen Qiao said yes obediently. The matter of testing Fu Chuan was dropped. But her suspicion of Fu Chuan deepened. Fu Chuan's skills were clean and neat. Fu Zhang had a total of 4 bodyguards, and none of them were his opponents. It is unreasonable for a rich young master to have such skills. Fu Nanli didn't practice jujitsu anymore that night and sent her to the entrance of the alley. After that, he set out to leave Heiken, and it would take half a month to leave. Wen Qiao had really restrained herself that night, and she was really relieved. For half a month, he could do experiments without having to lie. Wen Qiao felt relaxed all over. After breakfast, she pulled Wen Mo and asked Wen Qi to go out. Today we are going to Dr. Chen's clinic. You don't have to be mentally burdened. Just do what the doctor said, okay? Wen Mo nodded. Wen Qi rubbed his head. Is this necessary to be treated? Actually, I think. Wen Qiao grabbed him and said, if necessary, come with me. The 3 of them went to the Phelan clinic and met Dr. Chen Yanfei. Dr. Chen is about 40 years old and looks gentle and approachable. Chen Yanfei smiled and looked at Wen Qiao, which one is Wen Mo and which one is Wen Qi? Wen Qiao introduced her one by one, and Dr. Chen said, I'll talk to Wen Mo first, okay? Certainly. Wen Mo stood behind Wen Qiao, holding her hand and not moving forward. He was very wary of this world and did not dare to step into unfamiliar territory easily. Wen Qiao could feel him shaking slightly and asked the doctor if she could accompany him. Of course, then Wen Qi can sit outside for a while. In the spacious, bright, and warmly decorated office, Wen Qiao and Wen Mo sat on the sofa, and Dr. Chen poured 2 glasses of warm water over. Xiao Mo, can I call you that? Wen Mo nodded without looking directly into her eyes. You are closest to your sister at home, right? Wen Mo nodded again. What are your hobbies and interests? If you don't want to tell me, you can write them down and show them to Auntie. Wen Mo thought for a while and wrote read and study. Wow, our Xiao Mo looks like a good kid, and his academic performance should be very good. Wen Mo nodded and wrote, first in grade in all exams. Chen Yanfei was obviously a little surprised, because many autistic children are accompanied by symptoms of dementia. Wen Mo's child actually ranked first in the grade. Individual cases must be treated individually. Wen Qiao kept listening and was very satisfied with Dr. Chen. She was very kind. Wen Mo gradually opened up and was willing to answer some of the questions she asked in handwriting. She was always good at tempting him. Once she touched his sensitive points, she would change the subject. Prevent him from being emotionally traumatized again. It's expensive for a reason. 2 hours later, Dr. Chen asked Wen Qiao to stay in the office. I would like to ask whether the mental disorders of your 2 younger brothers are hereditary or acquired. Wen Qiao hesitated and said, my parents didn't say it clearly, but there should be a certain degree of congenital reasons. Wen Jianmin thought it was caused by the Su family's genes, so he couldn't wait to let them leave the Wen family. But no one in the Su family had a mental illness, and my mother never mentioned it. Why is Wen Jianmin so sure it was inherited from her mother? 3 chapters completed, please vote for recommendation. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 67. Wen Mo's disease is indeed inherited from his parents' genes, but Wen Kai's disease is acquired. In comparison, Wen Mo's condition is much more serious than Wen Kai's. He has severe social barriers and is only immersed in my own world. Wen Kai's PTSD is more important to take medication. I've made a list for you. You can just go to a tertiary hospital to buy it. Wen Mo needs psychological counseling and medication once a week. For these 2 children, I have confidence and the company of their family are the most important to them. Wen Qiao nodded, thank you, doctor. Just bring Wen Mo here once a week from now on. Good. On the way back, Wen Qiao went directly to the hospital to buy the medicine list given by Dr. Chen, and got into a taxi with 2 large bags of medicine. Wen Qi touched his neck, is it necessary to take medicine? Wen Xiao, it's the same as having a cold. When you are sick, you have to take medicine. From now on, you should take it on time and on time. Do you hear me? Wen Qi rested his elbows on the window. Okay, I understand. How much did Wen Jianmin give you? Is it enough? Don't waste it too much. Who says young people don't know what it's like to be sad? Wen Qi seems to be very nervous, but he is also worried about his family's livelihood. Don't worry, it's enough. Besides, I'm starting to make money, so you don't have to worry about money. That dandy young master Fu Zhang received 1 million in his account that night, which shows that he was afraid of Fu Nanli to the point of losing his mind. She had a hot hand with this million, so she had to find an opportunity to spend it on Fu Nanli. When she rubbed her head, "Thank you for your hard work." Her mother is weak and her brothers are autistic and manic. When she has always known that she is having a hard time. For the first time, the boy had the urge to grow up quickly. Wen Xiao looked at Wen Mo with a smile. "Look at your brother, he actually has a day to talk to people. The sun rises in the west. Wen Xiao, is there anyone like you? What's wrong with me?" The three siblings talked and laughed in the hot summer breeze. Wen Xiao received Yan Jian's acceptance letter 2 days later, and the courier delivered it directly to her doorstep. "Wen Xiao, there's express delivery." Wen Xiao ran to the door in a hurry, and the younger brother smiled and said, "Central Conservatory of Music, admission notice, right?" Wen Xiao was very excited and took the envelope. "Yes. Congratulations." "Thanks." She couldn't wait to open the envelope, and the whole family gathered around. Su Yun's voice trembled with excitement. "Is it really the admission notice from Yan Jian?" "Well, yes, it's the admission letter written by the principal himself. The gilded cover has the principal's handwriting inside. Classmate Wen Xiao, you are hereby admitted to the Pipa Major of the Folk Music Department of our school. Please come to our school with this notice. Please refer to the admission instructions for new students for the specific time and place." The lower right corner is covered with Yang Yin's big red official seal. Wen Xiao was completely relieved. She is going to become a college student. After her rebirth, everything is slowly getting better. Su Yun was so excited that she read the admission notice over and over again. "Your principal's handwriting is really like everyone's. I'll go to the market to buy some food, and we'll have something good to eat tonight." Half an hour later, Lu Yu's wails could be heard from the alley to the door of her house. Wen Xiao felt anxious. "Yu, what's wrong with you?" Lu Yu's eyes were red from crying. Wen Xiao thought she had failed, but she saw Lu Yu took out an admission notice from her bag. Xiao, I have also been admitted to Yanjian, Department of Folk Music, majoring in Guqin. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 68. Wen Xiao breathed a sigh of relief. "Great, we can be in the same school again." Su Lu, Zhao Tong, and Zhuang Yan also received admission notices one after another. Zhao Tong said angrily, "I heard that both Wen Xiao and Lu Yu were admitted." For Su Lu, it was all a matter of picking up which pot she didn't like and poking at her sore spots. "New." Zhao Tong looked contemptuous. "The folk music department of Yanjian is in a desperate state. I heard that at the end of last year, the board of directors voted to close the folk music department. The folk music department is at the bottom of the food chain in Yanjian. Wen Xiao will be there. We don't need to take her seriously at all. Your cousin is the president of the student union, right?" Zhao Tong's eyebrows were dancing. "Yes, so, after entering Yanjian, Wen Xiao is not worthy of us? Lulu, there is really no need for you to worry about Wen Xiao all day long. She can only rely on men, and she is not worthy of us. Take her seriously." On the 13th day after Fu Nanli left, Wen Xiao felt a little uneasy. The sky outside was gloomy and it seemed like it was going to rain. Wen Qiao patted his head, stood up and raised his legs twice, but there was no reaction. Moreover, the voice that asked her to stay with Fu Nanli only appeared once after her rebirth, and never appeared again since then. Probably, it's not a big problem. On the plane back to Heiken from Copenhagen, Fu Nanli was sitting in business class as a passenger. The meeting ended 2 days early and he was about to arrive in Heiken in 3 hours. Wen Qiao's cell phone vibrated. There was a message from Sulu, asking her to meet at a nearby cafe, saying that he wanted to apologize to her for leaking 2 million to her uncle's family. She actually admitted it. Wen Qiao certainly didn't believe that Sulu would find her way back. This person obviously had some bad intentions. She sent another message to Zhuangyan using the WeChat ID she had registered before. Nothing else but an address. Sulu was waiting in the cafe. There was a lot of traffic outside the window, and the cafe was very air-conditioned. She smiled slightly when she saw people approaching with umbrellas outside the floor-to-ceiling windows. The neon was soaked in water vapor, and Wen Qiao came out of the rain and fog, as beautiful as a dream. Sulu clenched her fists, and then slightly raised the corners of her mouth. She is coming. Wen Qiao is still so easy to deceive. She was relieved. She found a rich second-generation friend Lu Yang who Zhuangyan also knew. He would be there soon. She would excuse herself to the bathroom and leave the two of them alone. Lu Yang would touch Wen Qiao. She found a good angle to take some photos. Just show it to Zhuangyan when the time comes. She didn't mean any harm. She just wanted Zhuangyan not to think that Wen Qiao's chaotic style was spread through her. She just wanted Zhuangyan to think that Wen Qiao was a girl with a chaotic private life. Zhuangyan was in a nearby violin shop. The $1 million violin was still being repaired, and more than half of its web had been repaired. He was asked to come over and listen to the music. It was that inexplicable number again, and there was only an inexplicable address, but he still ran out instinctively. Wen Qiao put away his umbrella and put it on the rain gear stand at the entrance of the cafe. He looked around first and then walked towards Sulu. Sulu waved, and the waiter and Wen Qiao walked to the table together. 2 cappuccinos, Winko, okay. Ken. It's not like I'm really here to drink coffee. After Wen Qiao sat down, she suddenly felt her heartbeat speeding up and getting faster and faster. She realized that something was obviously wrong with her body. And the reason why this was wrong was not because of Sulu. After all, she entered this cafe without drinking anything. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 69. Sulu did not dare to be so blatant in public. So, the reason for feeling unwell, is it because she has been away from Fu Nanli for 13 days? Is 13 days the limit? She panicked for a moment and stretched out her hands to support the table to stand up. Sulu saw that her face was pale and said, Wen Qiao, what's wrong with you? Wen Qiao's hand holding the edge of the table showed veins. It's nothing, I'm leaving first. Sulu took her arm and said, let's finish our coffee and leave. Wen Qiao pushed her hand away, get out of here. With his heart almost jumping into his throat, Wen Qiao found that his hands and feet seemed to be out of control, his mind went blank, and his eyes gradually became distracted. At the last second when she fainted, she saw Zhuangyan running towards her in the drizzle without an umbrella. He looked at her with a look that seemed worried. Maybe I got it wrong. Zhuangyan hated her, so why would he worry about her? For a moment, her heartbeat seemed to suddenly stop, and her eyes closed, and her world completely fell into darkness. Sulu was stunned. She didn't know how to respond to Wen Qiao, who suddenly fell to the ground upright. The guests on the side pointed and panicked. Until Zhuang Yan's voice came from behind, he pushed her away, half knelt on the ground, pulled Wen Qiao's shoulders. His voice was full of worry. Wen Qiao, what's wrong with you? Only then did Sulu come back to her senses. She originally thought she could set a trap for Wen Qiao, but she didn't expect that Wen Qiao would use his plan and set a trap for her. She must be faking it. How could anyone say she fainted? After coming back to her senses, Sulu quickly squatted down and patted Wen Qiao's face. Wen Qiao, wake up and stop joking. Zhuang Yan pushed her hand away and stretched out his hand to feel Wen Qiao's breath. His breathing was very weak. His heart tugged hard. He picked her up with a solemn expression and hurried out. Sulu was completely confused, her plan was completely disrupted, and she got herself involved again. Zhuang Yan should have watched Wen Qiao faint in front of her. Then would he think Wen Qiao's fainting was related to her? Wen Qiao must be faking it. She ventilated Zhuang Yan in advance just to let him come over to witness this scene. Wen Qiao is really too scheming. She actually got her way. Without having time to think about it, she hurried out and saw Zhuang Yan getting into a taxi with Wen Qiao in his arms. In the car, Zhuang Yan could feel Wen Qiao's weakness, his breathing was getting weaker, and his face was as pale as paper. What kind of medicine did Sulu give her? Is she crazy? Master, could you please hurry up? The driver stepped on the accelerator and drove through the rainy night. 20 minutes later, the car arrived at the second hospital. Zhuang Yan took off his shirt, leaving only a t-shirt, and put the shirt on Wen Qiao's head. He carried the person straight to the emergency room. At the door of the operating room, the doctor stopped him. Sorry, are you a family member of the patient? Zhuang Yan clenched his fists and could only shake his head. I'm not. Then do you know the contact information of her family members? The patient's condition seems to be critical, and we need to contact her family members. Zhuang Yan was already confused. I don't know. A nurse opened the operating door and walked out. The patient's heartbeat is too slow and requires a pacemaker. There is a bracelet on her wrist with a name on it, Fu Nanli, and this person's contact information, which should be the emergency contact. I'm making a call here. The door to the operating room was urgent and orderly, and Zhuang Yan was the only one standing there. Fu Nanli? Is it the Fu Nanli he knows? How could Fu Nanli be her emergency contact? The plane arrived at Haikan Dongpu Airport. Fu Nanli and Su Shen got off the plane together, followed by 2 bodyguards. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 70. Uncle Lee's call was the first one to come in. He was waiting at the exit, saying that his mother had returned from Zurich and was waiting for him at home. Fu Nanli hung up the phone and walked towards the exit. The phone buzzed again. It was an unfamiliar landline number. He hesitated for a moment and answered the call. A noisy and urgent voice came from the other side. Is this Mr. Fu? There is a girl here who fainted. You are on her body contact information, that's why we made this call to you. Fu Nanli's face suddenly darkened. What's her name? It seems to be called Wen Qiao. Place. The second hospital at number 46 Jingyang Road. After hanging up the phone, Fu Nanli quickened his pace and saw Uncle Lee waiting at the exit. Uncle Lee came up with a smile on his face. Madam has been talking about you. Go to the second courtyard. Second courtyard? What's wrong with the young master? You don't have to follow me, just go back first. Uncle Lee was worried. Master, are you feeling unwell? There is a doctor at home. Fu Nanli only glanced coldly at Uncle Lee, who was following him to the parking lot. Do you want me to say it a second time? Uncle Lee has been in the Fu family for more than 20 years. He is the most observant and understands the young master's temperament best. There was a gloom in his eyes, indicating that he was really unhappy. I don't dare to get too entangled. Okay, I'll go back and talk to my wife first, and wait for you to come back for dinner. Fu Nanli got into his Bentley, and the driver sped off to the second hospital according to the address. It was raining heavily outside, the wipers were swinging frequently, and the man in the back seat was always frowning. In the emergency operating room of the second hospital, the two doctors were helpless. They used a pacemaker and a defibrillator. After a thorough examination, they could not find the cause. The blood test showed that they had not taken any drugs that caused heart spasms. It's just an inexplicable fainting, and an inexplicable coma. Medical science seems to have no explanation for her symptoms at this stage. Several highly skilled doctors from the cardiology and brain departments entered the operating room, and Zhuang Yan's heart rose in his throat as a group of doctors came and went. The car stopped at the entrance of the emergency room. It was raining heavily. Fu Nanli opened the door and got out of the car. The driver hurriedly picked up the umbrella beside him and said, "Master, umbrella." The tall figure has already entered the emergency room. The suit Fu Nanli was wearing was stained with water, and the color was darker. He asked a few questions at the information desk, and the young nurse diligently led him up to the third floor. At the door of the emergency room, he saw the man named Zhuang Yan's boy. It's him again. His face became even more gloomy. He was wearing formal clothes, but before he could take off the aviation badge on his chest, it fell into Zhuang Yan's eyes, shocking his already confused consciousness even more. It turned out to be the eldest son of the Fu family who worked for the airline company. How did Wen Qiao get involved with him? Even if she is still in the Wen family, it is impossible to reach the Fu family, not to mention that Wen Qiao now lives in the civilian class. The Fu family should be an unattainable circle that she looks up to. What happened in the middle? Fu Nanli was even her emergency contact, and she even had Fu Nanli's contact information on her hand. Zhuang Yan's face turned pale. In the operating room, the heartbeat of a person who had dropped to 40 suddenly, without warning, gradually picked up, and slowly rose to 60 or 70. The normal heart rate of an adult is between 60 and 100. She suddenly returned to normal. The water vapor in the oxygen mask gradually increased, and her breathing changed from weak to strong.